once again to Gilbert and Sullivan Radio Theater. This is your host, Jerry Tracy, inviting you to join me and the KBCS players as we present all 14 of the comic operas of Gilbert and Sullivan in chronological order. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to attempt to utilize the KBCS corridor of time once again. Let's see, how do we turn this on? Here we are. Yes, there's the official corridor of time melody. We will try and locate Rosina Brandram, the originator of the part of Katisha and most of the other alto roles in the G&S canon. Let's look for the door marked March 7, 1896, the night of the premiere of The Grand Duke, the 14th and sadly the last of the Gilbert and Sullivan collaborations, though no one knew it at the time. Here it is.
He isn't at home today. No, he isn't at home today.
This is an historic moment indeed, dear listeners. Here is Rosina Brandram, preparing herself for this evening's premiere. Excuse me, Rosina? Excuse me?
Oh, yes. Just put the flowers over there.
Oh, no, I'm Jerry Tracy, the host of the KBCS Radio Theater. And I'd like to interview you, please, if you can spare the time.
It's been a perfectly dreadful day with that extra dress rehearsal. We may as well round it off with an interview for a newspaper I never heard of.
Thank you, Rosina.
Miss Brandram.
Oh, yes, Miss Brandram, beg pardon.
You journalists are always taking such liberties.
Well, I'm not exactly with the press, but never mind.
Act 1, curtain, 5 minutes.
Oh, gee, I've come at a bad time for you, haven't I?
No, not really. I don't enter until the middle of Act 2 in this production. I'll simply have to sit around until then. But perhaps you should go. I'm very tired.
If we can just take a moment of your valuable time, please.
I don't really think I'm up to it.
What was that marvelous tune you were humming when I entered?
No. I was just preparing for my entrance. I didn't realize anyone was listening. You liked it?
Oh, very much so.
That's my entrance song.
Really?
You see, I play the Baroness von Krankenfeld, who is betrothed to the Grand Duke Rudolph. He failed to show up at the wedding, so I storm his palace and demand to know where he is. Well, the palace has been taken over by a theatrical troupe, and they concoct ridiculous excuses for him, saying he isn't at home today, that he's in a cemetery, that he died yesterday, and so on. And the more excuses they make, the more furious I become.
Well, let's listen to that selection, shall we?
Oh, very well. He isn't at home today.
Oh, no. I meant let's listen to a recording of that song,
Oh. What?
That was Lindsay Holland as the Baroness.
Who? Oh, that's my song.
Oh, dear.
You copyright pirates are everywhere, aren't you?
No.
Hiding backstage during dress rehearsal, were you?
Miss Brandram.
And where are you hiding that book? Listen there.
Miss Brandram.
Come out, all of you.
No, Miss Brandram.
Here this instant. I know
Now,
you're in there.
Miss Brandram, please try and calm down. That delightful opening of yours reminds me a bit of the entrance of the villainess in the Mikado Katisha.
Yes, I suppose so.
One of your greatest triumphs, may I add.
I was rather good, wasn't I?
Good is an understatement. You were brilliant. All the first night reviewers agreed you were the highlight of the show, Miss Brandram.
Call me Rosina.
Thank you. Thanks, Rosina.
Now, we were talking about my Katisha.
Yes, let's review that scene in which Katisha comes upon the townspeople of Titipu in Japan. Your character...
Yes, Katisha is betrothed to Nankipu, the son of the Mikado of Japan.
Yes.
Because she mistook his amiability for flirtation, and his father, the Mikado, punishes flirtation with beheading.
Yes, the Mikado, as I recall...
I was telling the story.
Of course.
Katisha has searched the length of Japan for Nankipu, and finally discovers him in this scene, masquerading as a wandering minstrel and about to marry Yum Yum. For some reason, Nankipu rejects her advances. Katisha threatens to expose him as the son of the Mikado, but the townspeople drown her out by singing in Japanese.
Oh, faithless one, this
Well, I was good in that role, wasn't I?
Actually, that was a recording of Felicity Palmer.
Who?
But her performance couldn't hold a candle to yours, Rosina.
That's Miss Brandram, please.
Yes, of course, Miss Brandram. Well, Katisha, the Baroness, do you ever tire of playing the villainess?
Not at all. I love these roles.
Really?
Oh, yes.
And yet there are those who criticize Mr. Gilbert for portraying mature women in such a negative light.
Well, that's true.
He's not very flattering.
He certainly is not. Something to do with his resentment of Queen Victoria's running England so well, I gather. That and his male pride.
Perhaps our listeners can think of another term for it.
There's talk that his portrayal of older women lost him a knighthood. The Queen knighted Mr. Sullivan, but not Mr. Gilbert.
Ah.
We really shouldn't talk about that around here. Mr. Gilbert is very sensitive about it.
I see.
Ah, but Mr. Sullivan always softens Mr. Gilbert's portrayals by giving me such beautiful, touching musical settings for Mr. Gilbert's satire.
Yes, one of my very favorites is Lady Jane's song from Patience.
A wonderful role. Lady Jane is miserable over the fact that the conceited poet Reginald Bunthorne ignores her. In her soliloquy at the beginning of Act 2, she wishes he would hurry up and notice her before her charms fade altogether.
A bit harsh on Mr. Gilbert's part.
Yes, but Mr. Sullivan's music, well, ennobles Lady Jane somehow and transforms her from a stock comic character into someone far more real and sad. By the way, I really did play the cello on stage for this number.
That was Monica Sinclair as Lady Jane.
Not so very bad, I suppose.
Now, your character often ended up married to the comic baritone.
Ah, Mr. Grossmith, yes indeed.
As in the Mikado, where she is tricked into falling for the tailor, Coco.
Oh, yes. And Katisha and Coco sing a wonderful duet, Beauty in the Bellow of the Blast, in which Coco pretends to share Katisha's passion for the horrible.
We heard John Reed as Coco and Lindsay Holland as Katisha.
But
But I'm sure you were much more terrifying.
you do know how to flatter a girl, don't you?
I'm joking. Actually, you are a fabulous talent.
Oh, thank you.
Do you know what Mr. Gilbert wrote about you?
Mr. Gilbert?
Yes. He wrote, Rosina of the glorious voice that rolled out as Burgundy rolled down. Rosina, whose dismal doom it was to represent undesirable old ladies, but who, with all the resources of the make-up box, could never succeed in looking more than an attractive 8 and 20. It was her only failure.
Well, That's very kind of him, and very characteristic. And notice that obsession with a woman's age. For heaven's sake.
No doubt he meant well.
I know he did. He is quite gallant in his way.
Miss Brandram,
Rosina.
is there a song you'd like us to play before we let you get back to your preparations?
Yes. I wonder if you'd let me hear my duet from Ruddigore. There grew a little flower. It's so sad and lovely, like a beautiful old folk song. Dame Hannah is singing to her old love, Sir Roderick, or rather to his ghost, for he died many years before. Would you let me hear that song, please?
Of course, and thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you a while.
It was my pleasure.
Safeguards of your nation. Here is an end at last of all tradition. You've got to pay, spare all you can afford to ever make a photograph on board. So I could never tell why, but still I told Buttercup, poor little Buttercup, sweet little Buttercup, I've nothing to Becky and excellent Jackie, I scissors and watches and knives, I've ribbons and laces, set off the faces of pretty and sweet husband wives, I twinkle and toffee, I tea and I toffee, soft Tommy and certain and soft. I chickens and ponies and pretty